so I will be the only one representing the Senate.
Yeah, that will work.
I can't see the attorney on this TV here.
Oh, no, that doesn't work. The board packet will work.
Oh, yeah.
The Zoom, we can hear this time.
That's better, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, you want me to run the screen then?
One or the other, you can see him or hear him, I guess.
Start here. In perfect time.
Perfect timing.
Hey.
Good to see you. Good to see you.
Can I use it? I got this right here.
I just want to say, it's going to be a pleasure to see your name on this sheet. I'm glad to have it there. my, I was going to say, my wife was like, I like him a lot. And I'm like, well, duh, we had to sign up in a driveway, you dummy. And she was laughing.
Behind you, just trying to get you.
It looks like everything's up and running.
That's really
Looks like.
Steve on his list. I just finished Christmas shopping and
I'm getting everybody else's Christmas presents on my porch. I'm on the phone calling, if you're missing something, I look them up on Google. Yeah, what do you got? I said, one guy's panicking because it was one piece out of two. I said, sitting on my porch, come on over and get it.
Any of my presents over there?
I mean, one's over on Bone Road, and the address specifically said Bone Road.
How did it end up on
One of two pieces, right? And it just comes up, drops on my porch, it says Bone Road. White Lake Road is not Bone Road.
Maybe they stuck together.
No, they're two big packages. What it is, I bought one for my grandkid, I knew what it was. It's a box, the base for the punching bag that you fill full of water.
Merry Christmas, huh?
I got the base and he got the punching bag.
You should ask him for the punching bag.
I wouldn't do that. My wife, she ordered a nice set for my daughter, and on the 5th it still doesn't come. On the 15th they said, if it doesn't come, reorder it. And my wife called me and she said, why do I have to reorder it? They said, Amazon said it must have been lost. Well, if it's lost, ship me a new one. It's Christmas time. I ordered on the 5th. Man.
All right, 6 o'clock, we'll call the meeting to order. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Approval of the agenda.
I'd like to just, that packet I was handed out, if there's a few of those things we could discuss with Laura since she's here, just from a topic perspective.
Yeah, well, I think we can just, don't have to amend the agenda. I think we can just include that under renewal.
Okay, as long as.
The old business one.
Yeah, old business item number one. And
Perfect.
no, there's not roll call on here.
Yeah,
so
thanks, I'm good with that.
I will accept a motion to approve the
Go
agenda.
ahead and motion.
Support. Motion and a support to approve the agenda. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Agenda is approved. Approval of the minutes for the December 10th, 2024 regular meeting. I did have one comment in there. Let me just find it. I think it had to do with, hang on. I think it was just a little unclear on the nominations versus a motion. Said Kevin Ross nominated Bill Ward as Planning Commission Secretary. John Ward made a motion to nominate, but that should be to elect, right, Russ? Can you see
it
that?
should be to elect, yes, that should be a motion to elect, so. That's gonna be on, the first page, and that is the motion for the secretary.
Got it? You guys in agreement with that?
Mhm.
Any other comments?
As amended.
Any other comments on the agenda? Accept a motion to approve the meeting minutes for December 10th, 2024, regular meeting as amended.
As amended. Make a motion for that.
We have a motion
Support.
and support. Any other discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Those meeting minutes are approved. Now we'll go to call to the public. Scott, was that, did you, okay, go ahead, Scott.
Scott Beecher, White Lake Road. I just wanted to reiterate, in the past, I know there was a lot of things when the politics were all going, and I talked to Kevin about this, we had a big discussion, and there's a lot of back and forth over the absenteeism. Okay, we set up a planning commission and a board with so many people, so we can try to get a proper vote on issues, and sometimes we get down right to a quorum. And, I know absenteeism, somebody's sick, I know he's been sick, and I know we got certain issues, but if you can't make it and you're off all the time, like Bill's not here today, he said he's gonna be a secretary. If you can't make it, if he's gonna be tied with work all the time, we need to get someone to fill these seats. He's did take up our responsibility being a secretary. But it's not that I wanna pick anybody, I like Bill, I know his brother, I've always shopped there, but in an area where someone's gonna miss so much time, I don't know, do we find somebody else, or do we get an extra person, like we filled another vacant, what we do is we put on an extra person on one of the other boards, and maybe we should put one on the board, an extra person, an alternate, an alternate for the planning commission, I don't know, but how much time can you miss and still know what's going on? I'm not trying to pick on it, but we got people in the audience who hear more than some of the board members, but I don't want to pick on you guys. But to me, it's like, I don't want to, let's not start a war. But that's where I was coming from, okay? And like I told Kevin, I says, I don't want to bash anybody, but I said, we don't know what's going on. So we ask questions. But anyways, welcome everybody and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, Scott.
Merry Christmas. Scott, I don't believe there is an opportunity to add an alternate. I think the bylaws, we can review it.
It is a suggestion.
But I think that bylaws
Yeah.
specify 7, and it may even be in the Zoning Enabling Act or the Michigan Planning Act or one of those.
Yeah, but that's one that I don't know offhand.
I noticed we put an alternate on last night, that's the first, so I didn't know if it was possible.
And also, I don't think that would, in my opinion, would be a good idea, because the planning commission, we're continuously working on things. Imagine just dropping someone in here that doesn't know about it. On the ZBA, usually you got one business item for that night, you handle that item, you can kind of go in and out.
Be here, you're right.
So, that's probably why it is, but.
But like I said, you got, I don't know, hopefully it's a better year this year, and we get some more attendance, better attendance, but I think it's important that we have a certain amount of board members and a certain amount of planning commission members. And to me, I know when I went to work, if you guys don't get paid, I know, so it's hard. But it's important, we got a lot of big issues coming up, and it would be nice that we get a broader view. I know you guys got vacations and you guys work, but try to get here a little bit more, so.
Understood, thank you for the comment. Jeanette?
Jeanette Ropetta, Tyrone Township resident. I just have a comment regarding number 1 on old business, the renewable energy overlay map. So I understand you guys are gonna be looking at that again. I would really like to know, when you do pick an area, what your prerequisites are for it. What is you're looking for? Because that's what we missed from the last. We never had it explained to us why that area was picked. And so if you remember that first map where it was scattered all through, it like the whole township was plastered, that first initial, look at it, it's like, how did you go from that to this place that is surrounded by wetlands, has a cemetery right near, has creeks, etc. And so I would just hope that we hear more talk about how you're selecting these areas for the overlay map.
We can discuss that when we get to that item.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you. Any other, go ahead.
My name's Doug James. I live at 12082 White Lake Road here in the township. I bring this before you because I assume planning starts with the Planning Commission. If you travel east on White Lake Road and make a right and go north on Denton Hill Road, immediately on the east, on the right-hand side, is what looks like a North Flint dump. It's a horrific amount of garbage and abandoned vehicles and all kinds of stuff piled up. So brings the question if the township has a blight ordinance, and if it does, great, let's enforce it. If it doesn't, then we need one. Thank you.
Thank you. I can maybe ask Ross, just,
So the first step is you just file a complaint with us, you just give me a call, just give me a complaint form, we just need the address and the basic information on the
Okay.
property, and then we can look at investigation.
Okay, thank you.
all right, any other discussion on that comment, Ross? Or just,
Oh, no, we're,
Okay.
just explain that,
Yep.
you know, you can come in, we'll do the complaint, we'll get the process.
to answer your question, there is a blight ordinance, is that correct, Ross?
There is a beautification.
Beautification,
Beautification.
wrong term, beautification.
Yeah, but depending on, it could potentially, based on your description, apply to both beautification and zoning. But I'm not familiar with it, but we'll talk.
Thank you. Any other comment?
Denton Hill. Said Denton Hill?
Yes, Denton Hill going north.
Yeah,
Denton Hill.
Oh, I do know exactly what you're.
that's why I didn't know if you wanted to discuss that anymore. Was there any-
Yeah, so that one is actually, I could discuss that one a little bit more.
Yeah, discuss that a little more if you could.
That property has a long history with the township with legal action. They are actually under a permanent injunction to keep the property clean. Over the years, we've repeatedly had to take them back to court to get them in front of a judge in order to enforce that permanent injunction. And the court has not necessarily been doing us too many favors. But it's almost like every so often we try to go after them, and we're spending so much money trying to do it. Maybe it's something that the new board can potentially talk about, address, and change it, because right now we're bound to a permanent injunction for that enforcement. So we pretty much need to go through the courts to get them to do it at this point. And they're supposed to be, adding a little bit more teeth to it, and it's just not the way that it always works out. But we will definitely try to.
Great.
Is that continuous garage sale or whatever he's gonna be asking?
Perpetual.
Yeah, it's an all year long.
Yeah.
So should he still do a complaint?
It's not necessary, but if you want to come in, we can have you talk to the supervisor.
Okay, great.
Thank-
Maybe just to verify the actual address,
Yeah.
just that
Oh, yeah.
even though it's obvious when you drive by the property, that there's a lot of stuff, just to do a verification that what the actual address on the mailbox that you're talking about matches what this injunction is. That would be the prudent thing for us to follow up on.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Hearing none, we'll move on to old business. Item number 1, renewable energy overlay map. So with us today, we have Laura Genovich with Foster Swift, Special Counsel for the renewable energy, and I believe she's also helping with medical marijuana, is that correct?
I don't know if that is officially.
I'm not, maybe not, but she's,
I know that we were gonna work with,
Happy to, but
okay,
if she's willing to speak to it, I don't know how the billing or anything.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's been a formal proposal yet.
understood. So we'll stick with the renewable energy overlay item right now. I'll just give like a brief discussion of what I know, and then ask Laura to speak on it. So this overlay map, I guess, yeah, so this renewable energy overlay map we developed over about the last year and a half, or at least a year and a half ago, I'd say. And we had multiple, and we developed the ordinance for renewable energy, and with this new law, PA 233, that was enacted this November and was voted on a year before that. So we changed the ordinances for this large-scale renewable energy, and we added a overlay map. So this map specifies where it would be allowed within the township. To answer Jeanette's question about how we developed it, you know, the first map, which I did provide one to the planning commissioners here in the back of this Livingston County packet here. This was, we started with a map that, I don't have it on my screen right now, but we started with a map that was kind of looking down the US 23 corridor. We're just kind of throwing out ideas, and then we had the planning consultant draft that, and like Jeanette said, it was kind of scattered, or I guess that one was kind of up and down the corridor, large parcels. I think that was 40 acres and larger, adjacent to the US 23 corridor. That is not the one I'm discussing that's on the screen right now. But, and then we, you know, I don't want to speak for everyone, but I think we kind of just felt like we wanted to reduce the size, and we tried to get it as small as legally defensible.
And defined to industrial.
And then, but then the second version, we looked at another version that was like 40 acres or more in RV, and so we looked at different options. But we kind of, as we were doing this, we're also working on the master plan, and we kind of honed in on certain areas where there's currently industrial, and so we really tightened up the future land use map where we would allow industrial in the future. And, you know, with public comment and just discussions on the board, we said, you know, this is an industrial use, so we're going to put this only in industrial areas. And that's how we came to the current the current parcels here, which is shaded in this red. I'm just going to delete this for now. I was just kind of doing some sketch earlier. So we have basically two areas. This one up by the White Lake Road area for Volt 23. This area is currently have a concrete plant that's zoned M1, and another parcel that's currently zoned B2, and then some of this is zoned in the future land use map is industrial, and then this area here, there's current factory and current zoning M1 for a factory, and the large parcel adjacent to it, the northeast, is future land use designation of industrial. So we had those two areas, and we, you know, we talked with Laura about, is this enough, and then I think things changed since then. Then the MPSC came back with some other rules, and that's where I'm gonna, I guess, hand it over to Laura to maybe discuss how that's going,
Sure.
and give us an update on that.
All right, can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, great. I think that was a good explanation of the background. What happened with the MPSC sort of tangentially affects what we're doing here, but The MPSC, the Michigan Public Service Commission, entered an order in October that it described as providing application instructions for PA 233. In fact, it went far beyond that. Among other things, in our opinion at least, it rewrote parts of PA 233, including the definition of a CREO. And reading the MPSC's order, it really provides that townships have the authority to determine the location of any of these utility scale renewable energy facilities. If anyone was at the board meeting in November, I explained this there as well, but our firm, on behalf of 79 municipalities, including Tyrone Township, filed an appeal of that MPSC order. That appeal by statute is filed directly in the Court of Appeals. We've also filed a motion for a preliminary injunction. The court has not ruled on that yet. There was a flurry of motions, as you can imagine, by various developers seeking to intervene in that appeal so that they can be heard on the issue. We keep thinking the opinion on the preliminary injunction will come any day, but we're still waiting. Regardless, if the MPSC order is not overturned, then the reality is it may not matter where your overlay is because you might not get to decide the location anyway. We obviously don't believe that's what PA 233 provides. Reading PA 233, it does not take away townships' ability to determine where these land uses are located. So in that context, I did update the township board at the November meeting, and there was discussion about the size of the overlay, which has been acknowledged here at this meeting and at others as being fairly small. And the township's board direction was to be a bit more cautious in the size of that overlay and have the planning commission consider expanding it in size, so to perhaps eliminate one challenge that could be made in the future to it. And so I think, I always forget the exact acreage of your overlay, somewhere in the 140 to 180 acre area, I think. And so I think something more like a 300 acre minimum area might be more what the township board is asking the planning commission to look at. So that's sort of the feedback and direction from the township board. Again, in this kind of context of the pending MPSC appeal, I think it's a good time to do it. I think it's appropriate that the planning commission is moving forward on this expeditiously, so that when the appeal is resolved, we're in the position that ultimately where the township wants to be at.
Thank you. I do have a question for you on that. I have failed to find where are they coming up with these acreages in the law of 233? There's only megawatts, and I think you could do a Google search and find it could be 10 acres per megawatt, or it could maybe they're more efficient depending on how they build it or whatever. But is there something I don't see in the application instructions?
No.
Yeah, is this a capacity threshold thing is basically what we're asking, I think.
So there's nothing in either the statute or in the MPSC order that requires a minimum acreage for an overlay zoning district, or generally where it's allowed. And that's one of the reasons why we could say yes, a smaller, a district is defensible, because you're right. Technologies are different, technology is evolving, efficiencies are evolving, and there are ways to sort of rough calculate what acreage would be required under the current technology. And so that 300 to really 500 area, I think, comes from other communities that have looked at it and decided that was kind of a safe minimum amount based on the current technology. But it's not a magic number. There's no court that has said that is the gold standard. But it's probably less risky to have a larger overlay area if it comes to a point where a developer wishes to challenge the ordinance. And I think that was really one of the takeaways from the township board in bringing this back, is to say we'd like to have the strongest case we can have. It doesn't mean opening it up to the entire township, but perhaps expanding it a bit more from its current boundaries.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, in addition to that, we did receive comments from the Livingston County Department of Planning. Laura, did you review those, Laura?
Yep, those were part of the township board packet from November, so
Okay,
I did
yep.
have those.
So, I guess, did anyone have any comments or discussion on that review? I think in here, they do make some valid points about some high-quality nature area. Okay, maybe this area that we have in the overlay is wooded, and I don't have the exact spot here, but they have mentioned where, it might be more costly for a developer to put it there, but or they mentioned the location,
Wildlife health.
the location to the high transmission power line. But I don't feel that it's our job to really tee them up and set them right next to it, and give them the perfect parcel. We should, in my opinion, allow parcels that we think will have the least impact to the township. Not necessarily that's the easiest for the developer, but that's just one thought I had from reviewing this. Any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, and I think really we're pretty close to the high voltage transmission line.
There it is,
Yeah,
close.
right
I'm just
there,
saying,
that top one.
if we're gonna
Yeah.
step back and say,
Yeah.
go to more, I don't know,
Yeah,
I think,
it just proves the point in their review that they're saying, hey, don't put this near sensitive land. And it's like, well,
and
what's the point of that, right? What's the reason? So if you move it towards people, then it's even worse.
Then it's worse.
But,
yeah,
it's the way I read their review, but I get their points from a legal standpoint where we're stuck
yeah.
because of what the state's doing.
Well, and we have a ton of high-quality natural area. I mean, we're lucky in the
Yeah.
township that we have so much of that area. I mean, it'd be hard, I would think, to locate these in any place where we're not running a risk of impacting that.
And in there, I guess, I do wanna mention how, the parcel, we went by parcel, and we kinda took this approach, we decided this, when we were setting the future land use map for the master plan, that we're not gonna be like splitting parcels and say this half of one is residential and this half is commercial. So we also applied that to the overlay map, and so in that, you do have some areas where, there is a concrete plant, but the whole larger parcel, there's some wetlands and woods. But within the text of our zoning ordinance, there's provisions in there that they need to, be sensitive to that thing and follow DEQ requirements and stuff like that. So, it doesn't mean that if we say this parcel could be developed, that means the entire parcel could be. That's, I guess, my thought. We could, not saying we couldn't change that. We can set the overlay map wherever, but that's kind of the history and how we got to a full parcel rather than like a portion of a parcel.
But if they're wanting more land, let me ask you this, why did we stop Fenton Concrete's back line here?
It's,
I mean, why not just make it all?
I might have to look at that next,
They have-
that
They
adjacent.
have 400 acres.
Yeah, but I think then you're getting, well, because then it's I believe a separate parcel,
Yeah, there's 6 of them.
and you're getting into areas where in that one, it's almost like zero developable land, right?
They want more property.
So, but I think if we're going back to, Laura's, statements that, have it more defensible, where, we kinda almost gotta look at the developable land.
The southern,
And if I can jump in with one
Yeah,
comment,
please do.
I'm a lawyer, not a planner, so, the location's up to you, but if the future land use map is now calling for more of that area around what I call the, southern chunk of the overlay, that, to me, looks like you've got a future plan for industrial. Is there opportunity for expansion of the overlay on adjacent parcels there?
On the southern one, on this one?
That's the one
Yeah,
that
I can't see your screen, so I'm
Plain
not sure if
commercial
you'll the
industrial.
same map that I
Oh,
have.
that
She's talking about the two pink sections.
Down at, M23 and Center Road.
yeah, right down here. Yeah, so the parcel north of that is one
Yeah, I think
that
all
would make
of that-
sense.
all of
Yeah,
that-
I haven't really got there yet. I think it would.
But unfortunately, it's wide open and it's close to the ITC corridor.
Yeah,
That-
and, you know, proximity to ITC, the thing about it, well, it's what it is, it would cost more to.
We can go to the other side.
Yeah, so I think there's, I guess, a couple things, is for the parcel to the north, and I don't know the exact direction from the board, was it for us to add areas, or revisit the whole map and maybe remove some and add some others? You know, I guess, we probably could look at what we want, but,
Yeah, it was just
Are
to
we-
expand to include more acreage.
but does it mean remove the current acreage that we have?
I
I
don't
have
think,
to look at the motion language,
you know
but
what I
I don't
No.
think that you had to remove it. I think it was to,
Like, why aren't we saying like that and that?
I'm trying to find the exact language of the motion.
So I think I made that motion. Like, if we're already choosing this.
but I do want to just remind everybody that the overlay map doesn't ensure that the property owners are interested in selling or leasing. So it's just simply, just to remember the intent, it's simply to provide a map in a thoughtful way.
That's potential that they could develop.
That if all those landowners, under that overlay said, yes, we wanted to do that, we want to lease or sell, then that would be available. It doesn't force an eminent domain situation,
Of course.
and Laura can validate that.
Yeah, that is an important point. Although the state has seized a lot of power, they have not, the eminent domain is not currently a threat for this, because again, these are private developers coming in, not public, so they wouldn't have the power of eminent domain. You're right, the landowners would have to voluntarily choose that. And I couldn't find the motion language exactly, but it's my understanding that, you know, it's really up to the planning commission to consider expanding. I didn't take away from that meeting that you need to move the current overlay, but perhaps just expand it.
All right, so, I guess with that being said, maybe we can just go around and anyone can share ideas. I mean, no one's gonna, anywhere you put it, there's gonna be someone that's not happy with it. But, you know, any ideas on where we could
How many
add?
more acres are we trying to accomplish?
Well, I think if we're talking developable land, we gotta get quite a bit more, because it's,
Like 200?
But the huge lot around where our southern portion of our overlay is already
yeah,
that's roughly what is that, 200?
this one right here to the north.
Yeah,
If I
to the north
zoom
of
out,
ZF.
the north of ZF is 78 acres.
That whole, okay.
But see, that's,
And why I'm looking at that is like.
now, I'm just not certain that boundary on this map, Ross, it was a comment I was gonna have on the packet. You know, this map, I'm not certain that these boundaries are completely accurate. This,
Well, they're not, we need to go through. and-
yep, so it was a kind of a
Now
separate
we have-
sidebar comment,
Yeah,
but,
we can actually update the rest of the zoning map to include more recent property boundaries.
yeah, so like this
This does.
boundary here, on this map, it's showing that is 2, or plus a little small residential ones there.
it's 1.
And then this one is showing 1, but I'm looking at, the county GIS and it's showing 2. So when you're,
I see.
see, that's 78, but then if you add the other one next to it,
Then the one next to it also.
so this one next to it's 75, so then we got
150.
160, yeah, 100.
And the reason why I say that is there's still people that live next to there, so it's
There's-
not good no matter where you go, but
there's
there's very few next to
There's
those
few.
parcels compared to other ones. We can go look at other ones, but I'm just
Yeah.
minimizing, that's my thought.
That is a very, I would say, less residential area, but any other thoughts?
What about those parcels on the north side of, White Lake? That kitty corner to the church that's been for sale? There's a 30-acre parcel there, and
Here?
that butts into the
Yeah, but is
other
it near,
200.
but is it near the high tension? Wires?
It's further from the
It's further, but
wires.
if-
Like if you took like, for instance, like, cause you can see the line right here, if you took
Yeah.
like Foley or something like that, you know, then you'd be closer to these high tension wires. You know what I mean?
And it's more residential
It's-
up there.
Right. But if you took like, I don't know, like, let's say this area here, then it's considered, you know, you're right next to it. You have one side of the freeway, you have the other side of the freeway. You know what I mean?
Is there any, like, laws that they can't install these, like, right underneath the power lines?
Because the power lines are right flipping
I know,
there. They go
but like,
right
look at how
through.
much.
Oh, that's a
When it's
good-
like this, they have to flatten it all.
There would be an easement there too for the power lines that would probably
Yeah,
be
they
a
have like
problem, and that might not be our
100 foot.
issue, but there would be an issue for them. for
Well,
sure.
who wants the energy? The power company.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So they're obviously gonna have to.
I guess that is a thought. Laura, have you seen that?
Yeah, I couldn't hear the initial question, I'm sorry.
The power company easement for this high transmission, high voltage transmission line, is that potential area that we could put in the overlay district?
And again, I can't see where it's at, but if you're saying the easement crosses land where the overlay might be,
If it's 100-foot easement, 100-foot wide or something.
But they have other,
Yeah, so the easement where the high tension wires are.
yeah, I mean, I guess, I'm trying to see, I've got different maps pulled up. Does that run by those parcels?
It's just north of Hogan Road.
Rich,
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah.
can you send me the Zoom link?
Oh, yeah.
I'll just share my screen.
I mean, they clear it all the time.
I mean, it's just a thought, you know, there,
Yeah.
it already is,
They put barriers
utility
up so you can
use.
go in there.
You're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's already there for utilities.
Can't even take my TV back.
Yeah, it's probably, if you do the whole line across our whole township,
Yeah.
I wonder how
Yeah.
many acres it is.
Yeah, that's what I was curious. That's what I was going
Yeah.
Think about the one on the other side of the party store.
To the point of it needing to be developed, I mean, did you say 100-foot wide?
It might be more than that.
Probably more than that, because the actual property is much more than the clearing. I don't know
It's GIS.
how to measure on this GIS right now, but I'll get it, hang on, stand by, measure. Oops, how did I measure to right here? This
Gotta be a lot of property.
This parcel,
Yeah,
an
it's all different,
example, 340
Thank
feet.
you.
And this,
Sorry.
the example parcel, you know, they got multiple parcels throughout the township with, you know, with the utility running through it, but the one I measured, you know, is measuring 340 feet approximately, and it's, you know, the actual clearing for the power line's about half that. So there's,
A lot of obstacles.
That's why they make.
But-
Does the overlay would just be the easement?
well, I don't know if, I don't think these are easements, I think these are just Consumers Energy owned parcels. And,
Yeah, we need to lay eyes on it to kind of,
yeah, we're gonna try to give you a quick,
I just forwarded you, I think, the invitation, but this one is kind of acting weird, so.
And we do have to, I think I heard, and Laura, maybe you can validate or not, is you have to be outside of a certain number of miles for an airport, is that right?
so the PA 233 kind of loosens a lot of the restrictions, but we haven't seen them going up too close to airports. I mean, they can't be in the air, you've got an airport, approach area, you're not gonna put wind turbines up there, but other things may not interfere with an airport operation as much. Battery storage, for example.
Okay, I just wasn't sure if to your knowledge, PA 233 was specifying any distance, like 3 or 5 miles from an airport, or, you know, away from an airport. Because I know there's an airport at
I do know that the FAA.
Foley Road, for example.
The
Private
FAA
airport,
does
I don't
not
think-
regulate that.
yeah, that's a private
tell you that
airport.
It's at the,
Yeah, from pilot standpoint.
Well, yeah, that's what I just
I don't-
questioned.
No, I don't believe PA 233 regulates that.
Okay.
And neither does the FAA.
Yeah, that's a private airport. The nearest airport, is over at Linden Price's 9 Gulf 2, and it's probably 5 miles, if not close, and there's not really approach. It's an east-west runway. So I'm gonna try to get you on this Zoom that Ross sent me, and then I can share my screen, and then you can really see what we're seeing. Stand by.
Sit open. It'll take a second. As soon as it pops.
Well, I don't use it often, so every time I get
So
it, it's got
you just get an update.
Should I click it here?
I think you did it right. You did it once. It just,
While you're doing that, can I ask a question?
Go ahead, Scott.
Can we ask her, since that law was thrown us on last minute, as a law firm trying to put a stay on it, well, since all these townships have got lawsuits, multi-township lawsuit, will the judge put a stay on that order?
What was the question?
Since so many townships are in this lawsuit against this last minute order,
Yeah,
are they seeking the judge to put a stay on that?
yes, we have a motion for a preliminary injunction pending.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And that's against the MPSC
Correct.
stuff, not PA 233 specifically?
Correct.
Just to clarify.
That's
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I got
Great, you got it up there.
who's the presenter? Can you give me access to share this on my screen? We're really high tech here. We got you up on the screen. We're gonna pull up this map we were looking at. So here's just the county GIS, and I'll just give a quick summary of the power line. You can see it. Here's the township line. Power line snakes through here, across.
Wait, are you trying to share your screen or just am I
I was-
looking at it over your shoulder?
I was trying. No, but
Okay.
I was trying to,
oh, don't do that.
oops,
That's like,
hit share. Well, I gotta choose which
you
screen.
should
All
choose
right,
which screen.
it's this one.
No.
Right?
There we go.
No,
All right.
no, it's sharing.
Good?
All right, now I can see it.
Oh,
Thank you.
thank you. Sorry about that.
Of course.
We got help from our IT staff here. All right, so the power line goes, high voltage transmission, I believe it's called. It goes through the township. Here's, say, a wooded area, crosses freeway, goes south a little bit, and then continues east,
Okay.
and then a little bit northeast, right through the
Got
township.
it.
So all the way through the township. So what we were kind of just looking at, or just Garrett had thrown out was, okay, so like here this is like one parcel. It's not, I don't believe it's easement, they just own the parcel. It's owned by Consumers Energy.
It's the same thing with their gas lines that run through people's property. If something
Sometimes they're
blows-
easements, sometimes
Right.
it's just property,
Yeah,
So,
I'm not sure, without doing a lot of math there, but I doubt you could put any kind of renewable energy development there that would, comply with any kind of setbacks. So that would not be my recommendation.
well, what about like when there's parcels are larger?
If there's parcels that it straddles, that's different, but if you're just saying just the actual parcel that sort of comprises the easement, or that comprises the high transmission voltage line and around it, that's one thing. So that like parcel on the bottom part screen, the 400-009, I don't think that would be terribly helpful, but the parcel, the other ones, yeah, more to the west, perhaps.
And you're saying that based on like setbacks that are required in our ordinance?
No, that are required in PA 233, so you've got me pull them up real quick.
But those setbacks are to residential, because you're saying because it's a narrow strip and there's a setback to
Exactly.
residential parcels in addition to the property line.
Well, right, so if you can't, you gotta do at least 300 feet from, occupied dwellings or community buildings, 50 feet from a public road right of way, 50 feet from nearest shared property line, you might not be able to meet those with a parcel that narrow.
Oh, okay. I think you're onto something, Garrett, but, I don't know, maybe it's not possible. But when you get to these larger parcels, 30, I mean, we're talking 40, you know, you gotta do a lot of those to get up to our 300.
Well, we're over halfway to the 300 already. in
Yeah,
what's
Chris, do you
been
mind
there.
doing a quick math to see what from this, what it says? I think, what are we at, like 160 or 180 developable?
I think that's right. Or 140 also stuck out of my head, I'm not sure which it was.
Which number do you want me to use?
I would say the developable, but, you know, because if we have, in the northern section, if we have parcels that, you know, is clearly wetland, then that's not possible to develop as this, so we should take that large portion out, right?
Well, yeah, likely so. I mean, I don't think it's very helpful to leave that if you're going to just, if you can better expand an area that says perhaps future plan for industrial. If you've got properties that are next to a future planned industrial area, they could get anything there, right? Any permitted industrial use, they could get a factory, they could get, you know, all kinds of things there. So you've already kind of planned on them having that sort of land use as a neighbor, whether it's renewable or another industrial land use.
Do we know how much area that planned commercial, industrial, the pink shaded sections, how much would that net us?
Probably figure it out.
Well, that's
South of Fawcett.
that's current zoning map, right?
Well, I was looking at your future land use map on the website.
All right, yeah, I don't have that one up currently, but,
It's basically, it's not quite, it's Center Road in 23, but not the parcels that are right on Hogan Road or Linden Road.
She's not talking about what I was looking at.
Yeah, it's down there. Yep. So
I apologize, Laura, our website is out of date.
On the planning commission page.
Oh!
This is, before we, and this is a good point to bring up, but, you know, we had all this area as a various amount of, you know, commercial, planned PCS, planned commercial services, planned office, planned industrial research, planned commercial industrial. And we significantly sized that down when we went through our master plan, and that has already been approved. And I'm just gonna try to pull that up fast. I guess a side note, Ross, can you make a note to update those maps?
I got it, yeah,
All
it
right.
should have been updated everywhere. I
Understood.
did ask for that to be updated. Well, this.
Okay, I'll just go to the master plan. But to look,
Could I write a question?
Okay. I'll try to get there on my end as well, so I can get bigger.
yeah, go ahead and ask the question.
Okay, I'm just, sorry, Laura, Jeanette Rapetta, I've looked at this for a long time and just wondering, why wouldn't our township look at the land where owners have already signed leases with consumers and developers, and they're already ready to fly if a developer approaches them?
So I mean, you certainly can look at that. I don't know that it's just spot. The only thing it would indicate is that's an area that presumably a developer believes is feasible, but it doesn't mean it's the area where those land uses are best suited for the township. And that's a local planning decision, right? And I'm not saying this is the case, but a developer could think if it's just fine next to residential because that's the land it likes. And the township might think, no, we don't want, a wind, solar, battery farm right next to residential.
Right.
So again, it's probably, helpful in determining where it's feasible, because the lease suggests that a developer thinks it's feasible, but it doesn't mean that's where the township wants it as a planning matter.
And I guess I'm saying, as you guys, as the planning commission said, nobody's gonna be happy, so, but basically just looking and knowing where they've already targeted, and then also the fact that if the MPSC decides, hey, your overlay map is not conducive to what we've, and they could, or, I'm sorry, the developer goes to the MPSC and says, they're not following our guidelines in the act, then they just pretty much do what they want anyway and go approach these landowners. I guess I'm just saying it would seem to me that you would want to look at those parcels because they've already determined that they're good places for them.
Thank you.
Hey,
So
Ross.
Laura, I got the.
Real quick.
Okay.
Ross, can we make a note letting, to know that Bill Woods is in attendance?
Yeah, I got this.
Okay.
All right, and I apologize, I did not introduce, I was thinking, Laura's helping us out with this first item of business, but I did fail to introduce Gage Belko from McKenna, who is our new planning consultant. And I just want to bring that in because as we sit here and talk about different options, I think we want to start getting some draft overlays developed, and that's going to be Gage's task to do that, correct?
Mario and Gage, yeah.
McKenna's task.
Yeah, correct.
Correct. So, Gage, maybe you could say hi and just introduce yourself. I think I can put you up on here.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Mr. Ward. Yeah, I'm Gage Belko. I am working with McKenna. I'll be the kind of the day-to-day contact for the township, with Mario assisting with special projects such as this. So I'll be in every other Thursday, coming here soon.
Thank you, Gage.
Thank you.
So, back to the,
I said the presenter needs to, that's what.
Yeah, I've got the future land use map up now on my end too, so I
Okay.
can see it.
So, yes.
You can disregard what I said about.
all right, and that was our fault, Laura. We had the wrong one on the website, but, so yeah, this is the new, the current future land use map. And you can see here where a lot of this corridor we had is various industrial, commercial, office. We've really pared it down to, a little higher density medium density residential, not high, but higher than, medium density. And then some planned commercial along Old 23. And then this area currently is industrial. The current, this one little sliver to the west side is the current M1 industrial, and we added to the future land use map this one next to it. So,
Okay.
and then also similar to here, and that kind of goes back to the history of why we chose some of these parcels for our overlay, was to kind of put it close to the industrial, so future land use map.
What is the parcel that's planned for right above your purple right there on the screen, the dark green above it, the public, quasi-public?
That's
dark
church.
green?
This one's a church.
Oh, okay,
This is a cemetery,
okay.
and the pink is commercial. It's about around 30. It's not huge. So I guess in my opinion, now that we got it up, maybe this area here, it's already next to what we have as the current industrial factory.
How much is it?
And also next to where we currently have the overlay and currently future land use map for industrial here. So it's just
to
a
the
thought.
corridor, the ITC.
And it is close to the corridor, which is in this, that corridor is basically in this green here. You can kind of see it going through. I think like here, we probably talk about, there's probably easement here instead of owning that property, but it's in the vicinity.
Pretty close, yeah.
And I'm not, just saying that's where we need to, but maybe this area is where we look?
Yeah, I think that area around your existing purple there, your existing overlay is likely a good spot to consider. Again, that's up to you, I'm not the planner,
I know,
but
I
mean, that makes sense, that makes some sense to me.
And I know before I had spoke how on our future land use map, we were going by parcel rather than like the, I think the previous planner called it like the broad paintbrush approach versus just exact parcel lines. I think maybe in this one, maybe we do some more, you know, part of this parcel, part of that one, you know? I don't know. It's a thought.
Yeah, I've seen, you have to be very precise. The problem I have with another community right now, different kind of overlay, where they drew the overlay down the middle of a parcel, is it's not precise to the foot, you know, when they're drawing those, what the lines are drawn.
Yeah.
And then there wound up being a question over the exact, whether the exact proposed placement of the building was in or outside that overlay. So I tend to prefer parcel lines for that reason. If you're going to bisect a parcel, I think you have to be precise almost to a legal description point as to where exactly that line is.
Understood. And the reason I was thinking that is because, you know, there is some residential here, like Rich or someone had mentioned, not a ton. I mean, it's not like the most populated area of our township, but maybe just like not in that part there, but maybe we just gotta rely on the residential setbacks for that reason. I guess maybe we can just go around, or does anyone have any comments on this? Bill?
The north side of that parcel would be Hogan Road.
Yeah, yep, Hogan Road, correct.
You have houses.
That's what I was saying there. I mean, it's almost impossible to find 300 acres where there's no houses.
Right.
So, but, you know, you can see the smaller lots here that are the residential lots. I can put the aerial on in the GIS. You know, there is some residential here.
So currently, the purple that's shown on there is TRW's, see the two ponds in there?
Yeah.
That's TRW's land,
Yeah.
and that's currently a pond for their septic.
Okay.
They call it I forget.
Lagoon, yeah.
Yeah, lagoon.
So I guess that is another point, you know, like, but almost all this land has some type of use, right? Some people might be farming it. Some people might have a factory on it. Now, I mean, it's not up to us to determine, to just give a developer, here's the easiest parcel that you can put your use on. I mean, each land has use, even if it's not farmed, maybe it's fully wooded, maybe that's someone's hunting property or something. I mean, each land still has a use, whether it's a factory or a farm field. So I don't know if
Why aren't we just giving them a bunch of residential places? Because then you have a lot of parcels, giving them a more difficult time to actually get that. You know, like that. Have you thought about that?
I mean, I guess to Bill's point, you know, that there is currently being used for that.
So my question is, what about the parcel just to the west of where that currently
Right here.
is?
I think that's a fair option, because I would say less residential. It's kind of almost hidden back here.
And
But I'm gonna look what the
those three
Didn't they
parcels.
just-
Then
They just built brand new homes back there.
not behind, not to the. Let me just show you this parcel.
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, right here.
Yeah, back here. These people.
Are you talking about Ridenhour's home?
Yeah,
Those
you're
old
talking this back parcel
Just
right
to the
here?
west of the factory.
Yeah.
West.
This M1, like that little
Yeah.
area, right?
Ross, do you know? Are you aware of that?
I think
Is
there's
this parcel
some
right
new
here,
homes back
0417400008? That one is 52 acres. So, I mean, you know, it's away from, it's near industrial, next to lagoons for a factory. It has less residential adjacent to it. 50 acres, and then
either parcel that butts up to Hogan Road, you're gonna have houses.
I know, I understand that.
Yep.
75 on this one, and then approximately the same on the adjacent one. I think that one's 73. 78, did I say? 78, 73, and 52.
Yes, and I recognize the proximity of houses, but generally in terms of acreage, then I think with those, you're getting up to that, I think, size area that the township board was contemplating.
Aren't those the same parcels that we just went through for the asphalt plant?
Correct.
We're gonna
The
get
one
this-
purple one is.
Correct.
One of them.
So-
One of them, yeah.
Wouldn't we be
This
getting
one
the
here,
same
the one that we
kickback?
currently have is industrial, was where potential, or where applicant proposed
You're
the
saying-
asphalt plant.
You're saying that it was right over here, is where?
There's some nice homes back there. And with the kickback, if the asphalt plant got, if you're gonna put 300 acres of solar field, you're gonna have more than your fair shake.
What did we say this one, 72?
Yeah.
And this was 52? Just sketching things out, so we, okay, so,
Yeah.
Garrett, sorry, I was kind of typing that in, what was
No.
your?
I just, it was,
Makes a
I
good point.
was saying that was.
He does.
It's the,
It's 202.
202, add 202
Those
to it?
three,
So
those
we're-
three boxes.
Plus our ones, so we're covered a minimum if we,
Get you there.
if that was done that way. I mean, to your point, Garrett, there's gonna be,
Maybe three.
well, but that's, we already currently have about
Oh, yeah, you're right. So-
160, Chris?
Yeah, I think 165 is what I thought.
I mean, that one has got a lot of
Somewhere,
different,
yeah.
develop and undevelopable is not a fine line, you'd have to,
No, but
but that would, I think if adding those three would put us in the zone of defensible, maybe,
Yeah, I think, again, the township board's perspective was to be a bit more cautious, and I think this would be a more cautious approach.
and plus it seems to stay out of the wetland, at least to the north, to the northern parcel, from a protected wetland area.
or maybe these parcels here to the west, these larger ones closer to Linden Road, just a
Yeah,
thought.
because then,
I-
like.
Once again, you're still
like
got
not
the
here,
residential.
But all the way across.
On the north, I mean, to be honest, I love driving down Linden Road, it's just a nice country drive, and that would completely ruin it, but that's just, I mean, it's gonna happen anyway, or you're driving down the highway and it looks like you're driving down I-94.
Or 96.
But, so, other comments? Zach, anyone? Thoughts?
I think that area makes some sense.
I think we're getting,
Yeah,
Closer.
we're in the area, right?
yeah, because we're gonna run into houses and objections no matter where we put it, so.
Is that all farmland? There's no wetlands in there?
There is, I mean, my visual look at it, there appears to be some wetlands, but, you know, that's gonna happen. And they gotta be so
It's
far away,
minimal.
they gotta meet the requirements of that. So not all that land is developable, but, you know, I would say majority of this is, and compared to the northern parcel, which probably less than half, haven't measured it and delineated the wetlands, but I think we're in the range of acreage.
Wetlands on the west side of Linden Road, or War Creek is, that's where most of the wetland is.
Oh, you mean over like west of the trailer park here?
Well, yeah, west of Linden Road.
Yeah.
On the west side, it falls off.
I was saying, when you go
Yeah,
through
yeah.
Linden Road, it's right
It
there.
really falls off once you get, on the other, you know, once you get.
Correct, where Ore Creek goes through here, but that's quite a
I'm
bit.
just saying, that's about the only wetland I know of.
No, but there's some isolated wetlands, like
Yeah,
in
just
here,
like
I would be certain that's a wetland.
But I don't know, are those over, I think the DNR considers 14 acres,
They depends what you're,
what you do?
yeah.
So there is another parcel on the corner of Linden Road and Center Road. It would be the northwest corner that runs north all the way to Hogan Road. I think there's one house in there on the north side of that, or to the north end of that.
Right here? here's Linden Center,
Yeah, so all that behind the trailer park,
yeah.
I mean,
I think that's,
That's a good idea, actually.
that falls right behind the trailer park.
Yeah.
It has no houses all the way to Ore Creek on that side of the road of Center.
That's actually a good idea.
can we put the phase 2 of the trailer park in there?
No, because they have a consent judgment, and they own that property, they can build out the rest per the consent judgment.
Or they could lease it to a developer?
Any unused area, yes, but they are currently in the stages of building out.
I know, but I guess my point on this land use is someone's always using the land.
Yeah.
Whether it's, like I said, farming, or factory,
That one
or a
we-
trailer park, or
Yeah.
maybe it's just their hunting land.
That
So
one we-
everyone uses the land
Yeah,
in some aspect.
just given that it's, that particular property is governed by a consent judgment,
Yeah.
they need to just look at that first before we consider it. Because I don't know for sure whether or not the language included in that would prevent other uses as a possibility.
Okay.
What about the other gravel pit? The one that's for sale?
I'll do
Off
it there.
Denton Hill.
Off of that,
I don't think that's enough acreage.
I don't know how much acreage
That's
it
not
is.
huge.
It looks
60, I think it's 68 acres or something.
And that brings me to another point. I must say, good thought on that, really.
Yeah.
70. It is
Also-
residential
also
around there.
too.
I mean, you can't really see, it's down in the hole, right?
But it also has
You're
people's
surrounded
attention,
by
right?
nice houses.
But you're surrounded, so like, I don't think they could go beyond we'll say the bottom of the pit. And that brings to my other point, Laura, is should this be consecutive? I mean, I know the MPSC and the developer would like it to all be connected, I'd say. But what if we did one parcel here, one parcel way over there, and one parcel here? I know it's not ideal for them, but that, if they want to develop in our township, here's what we have available.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'd rather see you just have them together to, again, with taking kind of the township board's impression that we want to make this, take the more cautious approach, having the
Yeah.
piecemeal parcels all over the township probably. Now, that isn't to say you couldn't have a couple of different areas, right? You might have one, 250 over here, 250 in another part, but I wouldn't just have a piecemeal, 50 acres here, 50 acres there. I mean, again, there's no magic, there's no bright line. There's no rule that exactly tells you what you need to have, but so it's all a little bit of prediction and risk management.
I personally think that we need to go and look at these places physically before even making a determination.
We're definitely, just to
We
be
need
clear,
we need to,
we're not making a determination tonight, obviously.
yeah,
I
we
hope
need
that's
to
clear,
do a
that's
little
why.
more research, I think.
Maybe what we could do
And even with the
is
planner.
provide, if we come up with a potential draft, I know those are tough because someone will see it and they think that it's done deal, but, we talk about these and everyone's looking at a different map and sketching it out. It would be nice to get going on some drafts and then we have something to look at and talk about that draft. And if we want to go do site visits, that I would say highly recommended.
There's power lines over by that gravel, isn't there? It's right.
No,
I
it's
should
all the
think
way,
so, Scott.
it's straight down, it's basically, that's right where it crosses at White Lake and Denton Hill. You can see it kind of zigzags across here. But, another point to that is, say we did have this our area, and the high voltage transmissions here, they're gonna have to build, I would say, like high voltage transmission to get up there. And so even though maybe this area in the gravel pit is fairly shielded from residential use, you're gonna impact it by getting over to the utility corridor.
There's a big power line moving around.
That's what I said.
But they won't put solar in
Right
it
across the street.
because of the sun.
That's another point, but once again, are we trying to give them our best? We want to just give them our best prime farmland, or whatever, the easiest.
I mean, this is a draft. We shouldn't rush it.
We're not rushing this at all, I don't think. I mean, Chris can speak to the moratorium, but, you know,
Well, no, I
as
mean,
long
this,
as we're working on it, right?
well, the current map is approved.
Oh, correct.
The current map is
I'm
approved, the
yeah.
overlay map. It's just sent back to us, so the ordinances and the maps are all approved, and there's no more.
So I guess it would speak, for you, speaking for the board would be more of, okay, we've identified that we could, our current map could be potential at risk. How much rush do we wanna, you know, definitely don't wanna rush about a timeframe, you know?
Right.
We haven't really discussed a timeframe on this. I mean, we could talk about it, we
Right,
did talk about it for about 6
Yeah,
months,
that-
a year,
Yeah.
right?
But
And
I think
drag
this
on.
was the right discussion to have
Yeah,
with
I
these
agree.
things, because I don't think we're really extraordinarily far off. We just have to make some tough decisions of, you know, trying to pick parcels that don't have houses on them already, but if they're, you know, not contiguous with the other parcels, to make that up and things of that nature. So I think refreshing the map, are we planning on doing it to the new future land use map? Is that what I heard then, or?
Well, we looked at the future land use map, because that's where, obviously, we're looking at the future land use, but we put it on the current zoning map.
Zoning map, okay.
So,
It is a zoning district.
so it makes it a little confusing, and our current zoning map, I just want Ross and McKenna, our new planner, to look at that, to make sure that's got the current boundaries, you know, because there could have been a little different parcel look in there. Maybe like that one, the one north of, say, the M1 factory area, I think that's now 2 parcels.
Okay.
And I see 1 on here, so we want to get those,
And I
maybe
think,
update that base map.
I think from the meeting that, when they sent this map back to have further consideration, I mean, there's a sense of urgency if you can guess when we might have an application, right? So, I mean, that's what's the driving factor, is really the November 29th has come and passed. PA 233 is in force, and there are applications in townships around us that are being submitted by developers. So that's the sense of urgency I could really probably apply fairly to how much expedience we want to have finishing this up. I wouldn't drag this out over 4 more meetings or something like that.
No, but we don't want to rush it.
That's
and
right.
then-
That's right.
So, I don't wanna see all of them.
Yeah, that's the thing.
We're gonna see that in the map,
Absolutely, yeah.
and we're not gonna, in my opinion, we're not gonna vote on it until we have, does this require a public hearing?
This will.
Yes.
So we're gonna have the final, not final, the last draft of the overlay done, and then send that out for a public hearing, and if we make one change, we're gonna go hold another meeting to review it, because we're,
It's a zoning map amendment, so we also needed to take into account the county will also need some time to review it and comment
Okay.
before it actually makes it to the board, which, you know, we're losing a minimum of 3 weeks.
Yeah, I think we have time on this to.
Yeah, and
Kinda
you'll
should
notice
be
if we're
thoughtful.
within 300 feet, so any
That's
of
what I want.
these neighboring property owners will have a chance to come in and express their thoughts.
Right.
I guess with that being said, is my opinion, we add these 3 parcels here to our next version of the draft. And with that, have a total area, I don't know if the planner is able to kind of break down the,
They should.
develop-
Follow it up completely, but McKenna's the one that
Yeah,
actually generated
I'll-
the zoning map to begin with, so they have all the
Gotcha.
original
So-
files and base maps and anything.
Yeah, I'd like to
What's the
offer
reason we wouldn't
kind
do
of
this?
an analysis too.
Just
There's something that's missing from this discussion. It's, you have the zoning, you have future land use, but there's no existing land use analysis. So I think maybe we can layer these maps and basically extrude the available parcels. And it's gonna be more, and it's gonna cover some residential and some farmland, but again, any solar farm that comes through with an application still has to meet setback regulations. And the overlay, you know, that's a long uses change all the time. But I think we could do an analysis that shows existing land use, whether that's already developed or if it's undeveloped land. We do zoning, just to understand what the current zoning is. And then we do some sort of a buffer analysis with the future land use. So basically pile those maps on top of each other and you'll get this cutout of what's able to be offered as far as the overlay goes.
Okay, Kevin brought up a point here. He's saying, well, what about this one and have these three across here? I guess my thought on that is a little bit more residential impact. In this one, although there is residential down here,
It looks the same though. It looks actually more than at 52.
I was just thinking that at least it's next to the factory in the lagoons. But it's just a thought. I'm not opposed to saying, hey, put out 2 drafts and we can discuss 2 drafts, but
Why don't we just go on, when we take a look at the land, we can just review that one as well.
so what direction do we want to give McKenna for the next
Well,
meeting?
let's review it first, like physically before.
But I think instead of just discussing these on my sketch here, I think it's nice to have a draft, that we can visual see.
My thought is,
And that can be included in the packet.
my thought, John, you have a draft showing what you're showing here,
Okay.
and then another one that has just the 78 parcel.
Just this one?
Yep, and then that over towards the trailer park, that big parcel right to the below the trailer.
Below
park.
it, right here.
Here? Yeah.
We can easily provide multiple layouts. It's a quick switch of a button on GIS, so we can do that pretty easily.
Quick question, John. They've already been approached at the golf course. They said no. Could we add that? They already said no, but I'd add it, because you know he's not, they already told me no. I'd add it. You didn't hear
If
that.
you're looking at the golf course, you might want to go all the way to the
They wanna
storage
run a
facility.
Yeah, that's right.
transmission line under my property.
You know,
We're starting.
Center Road.
what are your opinions, Ross?
Oh, okay. So,
Wait 1 second.
It's your decision to make, but I mean, in terms of including the golf course, it is wide open area. It is arguably something that could be developed feasibly by a developer, assuming that someone is willing. So I mean, the way that I look at it, I think that we could probably consider that a portion of eligible property. I think that that's definitely something to consider. I mean, why not?
I personally like that.
I don't.
I'm gonna have to call Dennis on that one.
Yeah.
Dennis isn't gonna be happy if we put that there.
Dennis,
You know, already said no, that's
already
why.
talked about this.
Yeah, but,
No, the only thing that conflicts with what we just did in the future land use.
I agree.
We said, hey, natural preservation.
yeah,
But that does butt up to the power lines.
no, this parcel here?
No, the power lines are up there.
The Tyrone Hills Golf Course.
No,
To
the
the
par-
south of it, there's a set of,
Oh, what is that
There
power
is.
line? That's some, I don't know.
There's a set of power
There's
lines.
a set of power lines, but that's not the high voltage.
it's not the high voltage, but it's pretty good set.
Yeah, it's right on the south, it's like on the 3rd hole there in that par 3.
Yeah, right there.
There is a large parcel just to the south of that, power lines too, that runs behind Action Water Sports and all that.
Yeah, that's a really
Yeah,
good
right
point.
here.
And there's no houses there.
That's a really good point.
All right, go ahead, Kevin or Greg,
No,
or
Garrett.
Garrett.
I just said if it's based off of discretion of the home, or the owners of the land, you have Fenton Concrete owns all this all the way back to what we're gonna say this is a development in the future, where Bentley's is gonna be a lake at some point. Let's be honest,
No.
it's not gonna fly with him, ever. There's all the property that you need for the number. And then you don't have to
But
worry
I think
about.
as far as our defensible, we kind of lost that in this one when they said, hey, this is all prime farmland and it's undevelopable.
That's prime. You ever been back there? It's God's country, you can't beat it.
I know, so,
Like, you can't make that up. That's in, I mean, it's unbelievable.
Beautiful
That's a
property.
really
It's
good point
on,
he
like, you
makes.
cannot make it up going back there.
That, he makes a really, really good point.
And then you never have to worry about it.
It cuts it off right there.
Because that R1 that we have listed there, that's for future, because someday Bentley is gonna become
The lake.
a running lake or a
Yeah.
Lake Shannon or whatever. There's no one back there. And at some point, Bentley's gonna run out of real estate, digging it up.
He's
They're
got
gonna go down, so it's gonna happen.
Tomorrow, they've got a permit to do tomorrow here, he mentioned that at one of the meetings, from the state. So I think they're planning on doing that in the future. That's what he said.
To do the what?
Tomorrow, it's a really
I
mushy,
suggest this.
you know, breaking down.
So I guess from Laura's perspective is if we
At least the
do an area like that as an overlay, is it developable? Right? Because
Yeah.
I think that was one of the
I
points
think
that Lydia.
the direction from the board was make it easier to develop. I mean, we had a pretty tough one,
It is.
right?
I know, yeah, we
I
did.
mean, we had
No, it's
very low
developable.
acreage.
It's totally
and-
developable.
It's developable, but you're not gonna be able to develop it because of who owns it.
Yeah.
But
Oh, there's a difference, if I can jump in.
Yeah,
It's just
go
a
ahead.
matter of, when we talk about developable, right, you've got protected wetlands that you're never going to be able really realistically to build on, that's one thing. When we say not developable because the current owner is using it for something else and doesn't want to, that's different, because frankly, enough money could make that owner change their mind, right?
That would
Or
be the
they could file
case.
bankruptcy, or, a number of things could happen. It could be in the
Yeah.
future and it's passed down to their kids, you know, who knows? But if the land, we look at the inherent quality of the land itself, not the circumstances of the current owner.
I feel like everything is developable, can be developed at some point. Someone finds a loophole,
And
somebody
that's what I
knows,
mean.
somebody knows Eagle,
In
somebody's
regards to
got a
that,
buddy,
that current.
then it happens.
I think there's a fair point too, if we stray too far from the areas that the master plan identified as more compatible with this use. You know, that could create a problem for us too. I'm not necessarily saying that applies to that parcel, but it's something to keep in mind.
Yeah, there's, the challenge is there's a creek in there, so which is what they said was faulty with our first spot of the wetlands.
They dig a hole in my property and I have a pond.
Right.
It is what it is.
Right.
Whatever you guys wanna, I'm just thinking of, you're gonna get a
So
lot of
what's the amount?
pushback for that other properties, just like
What-
we dealt with asphalt.
Well, would the existing land use study help with that? I mean, it certainly seems like it could, if McKenna was able to give us more data on that particular issue, but I don't know.
You can certainly provide a more granular look at the existing land use. It's not just residential and commercial. They have, gosh, I think it's 24 categories of different types of how the land has been developed or not developed over the years. But I think to someone's point is keeping it at least contiguous and adjacent to the areas planned for this type of industrial makes the most sense.
Well, we already have two areas that are non-contiguous in the current map.
Right.
So, and I think that, discussion at the beginning was, we're not retracting areas, we're just adding to it. Is that correct? From
I think
the
so.
last board meeting when they gave
Yeah, the board
direction?
wasn't specific to say, take out what you've already done.
So,
And
we already had
It's a
contiguous.
review.
that was my logic. I mean, I voted on that. I think it was actually my motion.
Okay.
You know, and I figured that I knew that the planning commission had picked those areas for good reason. So, you know, why
Yeah.
subtract?
No subtraction, just, keeping in line with your
Yeah.
future land use plan as you have, but expanding it a little bit to include some adjacent parcels,
Have we,
which is what you've done.
have we considered
72,
just asking Ross and to work with McKenna to see, have some suggestions? Like, we're trying to figure this out, but have we considered having them work together to find suggestions.
I mean,
On the over, I'm figuring out the other district.
we could always ask them that, but I think that the people, the residents know this area better. And we're kind of down to two areas, and I think, I mean,
Because
I think they can review it, we can ask them to review what we recommend, but I think when you start, when
I
we're
just want some
starting
more
with.
suggestions, that's all.
Yeah.
Like, I'm taking my time
I
because I
know.
want suggestions on this. I
We
don't,
could do it either way. When we started from scratch, what we started with were some recommendations from our planning consultant. And we
Yeah.
ended up down
And
there.
Right.
Here, we have clearly identified some areas.
They give us some-
And adding to it, so we could start from scratch, or we could just look at adding it and kind of get their thoughts and opinions on areas that we
but just seems like that some of the drafts, some of the things that we have, we've either added to or we've created new ones, right? So it depends, because there's a lot of different ideas floating around, and I just want to kind of, I'd like to be able to look at options, you know what I mean?
So I think what we're-
I want to be smart about this.
I think what we were just discussing as far as more data, if we did also include, in addition to our future land use and existing land use analysis, with all of that data.
Yeah.
That might just, if we have that for our next discussion, that would definitely aid in identifying those areas.
Okay.
I mean, it's up to you guys how you do it. We do have the new planning consultant. We could go either way. It's about, what is it that you as a planning commission feel you need in order to identify these areas?
I personally I want to take my time on this. I need to figure this is not a.
Do you feel that we should not provide the planner direction to propose a draft?
I think that we should see what they come up with first, if they actually do choose, if they do want to propose a draft. Like I want to look at all the options. Like I feel, again, I understand that the residents know more, and obviously I want to hear about this, right? Because we slapped something together, and just something doesn't feel right about it, and I don't know.
Yeah, and
Maybe it's the fact that I haven't looked there.
Is about these spots here where we're adding.
Yes.
Probably the least invasive way to do it. If you drive that road, the elevation of those properties are higher than Old 23.
Yeah.
So
you're
like,
not-
it wouldn't be blaring in your face.
Right.
This is my thought of why, but it's, like you're saying, there could be a way better spot, I don't know.
My
To
reservation-
Kevin's point, if we have drafts of different
Yeah.
options, it would help us. So, yeah.
I like the idea of having something that visualizes the options, but, I mean, the downside to a draft, at least from my perspective anyway, is, once you put it out there, then it's almost suggestive, even though I don't think that's what anybody here is intending, but it's almost suggestive that we've picked that area.
Well, and to that point, options do move you closer to a decision. Is that what you're saying, Zach? Right?
Well,
They're
individually.
naturally gonna point you toward closer to making a decision.
Take the path of least resistance.
So do you think multiple options within this area here, we'll call it the Hogan Linden Center area, with currently these three, would be option one? Would everyone be okay with that? Bill, your thoughts?
Well, my thought on that is, if we are ever gonna have any business in the township, that is the area for business.
Excuse me.
That's true. I mean,
So if you ever wanted a fire department and you wanted businesses to pay for it, you're gonna have to set aside property for it, or a
and,
police department.
and one thing that I haven't really accounted for, but I know, and I don't know all the details about it, but that's also where our sewer is, and if we want in the
Business,
future, businesses, we really pared it down, but we did say that the reason we've had in the future land use map is medium density residential and some other industrial here is because this is where the sewer line runs along 23.
23 there.
And so if we give this up to solar, then we have less land adjacent to the utilities.
Yeah, that's the issue.
So.
When this was laid out originally, that was the design
Yeah. And
to keep Old 23 for light business,
Yep.
and
That's a good
sewers
point,
were
Bill.
available.
Very good point. On that, similar, what if we shifted it over to
If you move it
here
over to
more?
here, yeah, that's what I was going.
And you got the west side of Linden Road too.
Yeah.
But didn't you say that the west side was?
No, he's saying,
Not quite a ways.
he was just saying that
Is there-
it goes
okay.
down. This
Right,
is all,
right.
I would
And
say,
it becomes wetlands.
fairly flat farmland in here. So we're talking, move maybe over to here, in here,
There's a valley down there.
or down
along
here.
the front. There's a valley down along the road, and that property goes way back in there, and they're farming, you don't build on it.
So, what'd you say, Ross?
John just mentioned, like, he's talking about parcels, that's a huge area right there.
How many
And
acres
it might
is
not,
that
and
one?
it might not be all three of these. I'm gonna go,
How many acres is that?
you guys discuss this, I'm gonna go recalculate those three parcels.
Okay.
If you wanna discuss, or you can just stand by.
You look at the west side,
81,
So this current building was designed or set up for like a fire department and police department, correct, next door? That's the planned use for it?
That's what I was, yeah. That's what I
I mean,
understood.
I've heard that, but
This
he
building,
just saying.
This property, when he purchased it, it has enough property to build a fire department and a police department.
that's what Cunningham wanted.
Well, if
Well-
it ever happened in the future, we had the property. That was the plan. So this township will not support the police and the fire without businesses along 23 to pay for it.
Yep.
Or we have to have a lot more houses.
Right. Yep.
and we already.
We don't want it.
You'll get a
Well,
ton more
I'm
taxes.
just saying, that's the design for the future. We don't want it, but,
I don't know that it's the design for the future. I think,
well, it was a
no, I
thought
think it's just a
process.
thought process to have it in case it's needed.
Yes.
If you don't need it, then it's just,
Then it
can-
just
It's
stays.
vacant
just
land.
vacant land.
Right.
You could have a park on there,
It's
you could
always
have
there.
whatever.
Better than buying it back for 20 times as much.
Right.
Yeah, but if the power company's going there, they gotta buy all the REUs, right?
Oh, I see, and I don't know that discussion either, but, and I don't,
That's a good.
I don't know the,
Yeah. they
Well,
do.
I don't think they have to.
If they're one of the leases,
They're
I
not
don't know
connected.
where the REUs go, if they lease it.
Those ones in the district are already allocated REUs, and I believe that some of those may still be paying a large special assessment. So the REUs do exist, and they're either just paid off or being paid off, but that was many millions of dollars for those properties.
That's 214 acres.
okay, so I think we can take one of those out. Maybe just do the two there, I mean, just thought, I mean, 80 and 80, 160 plus our current 160. We're close to the 300, it's not all developable, but we could, and then with that, just a thought, you know, we're trying to play a balance of, make it, I don't know what Laura's term was, but make it a little bit easier for them to develop, you know, but how far, that could be a board thought, so maybe at the board meeting, you could say, you know, we're looking at around 300, did you want to go to that 500? I think Laura's mentioned 300 to 500 is the maybe minimums, or do we want to be closer to the 500? I don't want to, but.
Go right down the middle of 300 to 400.
Or right at 300, right now,
at 300.
if we remove this, then right here, we're at approximately 300.
A little over. Yeah.
Little over,
Do
but,
they have to be adjoining?
no, because we already said we're not really gonna remove the
Okay.
one we had there.
Gotcha.
Now, it's not adjoining, but we got two areas.
Okay.
And Bill, I really do think that is a good point about at least considering that our available commercial, medium density residential and industrial use land that's available.
Yeah, that's the only area. From Center Road, or from White Lake Road to Fawcett Road is pretty much the area. One parcel, I think, south of Fawcett.
We can also put a north of White Lake Road too, the That's too close to Benton, probably.
Well, you gotta remember Fenton is building up, so say a Costco wanted to come in, where would they be looking at?
Oh, we don't.
Or
The highway.
or a Lowe's or whatever. They have no choice but to come south or north of Fenton. They're running out of property.
Those seem reasonable, those two.
So these two here, if we set that for a draft, on this, Gage, I want like across the whole thing draft, not just like in the corner.
Yeah.
Like, what, across the whole thing says draft.
No problem.
In red.
Yeah. And so,
An exclamation.
With an exclamation
I don't know
point,
if you're familiar with these two parcels. I think you can see it on the screen here. But I can tell you that parcel IDs.
Oh, no, I have the parcel.
You got it? All right.
Yep, I got it.
Feel free to contact Ross and he can work through me if there's clarification. So we would have that as a draft, we'll call it option 1 or something like that, option 1, because I would imagine we're going to go further drafts. And then, I think we need to maybe start having a list of criteria that we're working for. And like, Bill brings up that good point that we don't want to just have it within our sewer area or stuff like that. So, and, everyone needs to chime in if they're not in agreement with this, because we all got to work together to one decision. And
The property at Fenton Concrete and behind it, I don't know if there's enough area there.
But we're kind of, I know it's easier for them to be contiguous, but right now, well, the plan, Bill, is for us to still have that as an overlay area, not change that one.
Okay.
And they're not contiguous if we're talking here and here, but they're both close to the power line, and they add up together to total of over 300, the exact developable, I think Gage can help us on those numbers if he does his current land use map.
Yep, I can run an estimate on those numbers.
And I misspoke. I think now we would have basically 3 non-contiguous areas, even though these ones are fairly close by.
They're larger, it's not like you have 40.
They're large,
And
yeah.
they really are close too.
They're close, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we do need to move on. We don't need to
Yeah, let's table.
drag this out within this meeting, but we're not gonna rush it in the next meeting. So keep it on the next agenda. And then hopefully Gage can get us, or McKenna can get us a draft map for the next regular meeting in January.
You got it.
Do you mind sending me that just for?
Yep, I can send you this, Ross.
Just a little screenshot.
Any other comments, Laura?
No, I think that you guys made a lot of progress today, and I'll watch for the drafts as well.
All right, thank you so much for your time, Laura.
Well, I did have a couple of those other, just to mention those other considerations. Remember, we were going to.
Okay, so we're still in this item. Chris wanted to mention, and
We don't have to get into deep discussion because that
Understood.
part went in, but I just want to at least.
go ahead, Chris.
And thank you. Thanks, John. Laura, there's just some considerations on the solar ordinance, for example, that we were talking about possibly looking at that wasn't originally included, but tightening up some of the ordinances outside of the PA 233 items. For example, we have a exclusion from wind and battery for anything that's PA 233, we just don't allow it. But we could potentially talk about, I'm sorry?
PA 116 or PA 233?
PA 233, sorry. And PA 233, we could look at our solar ordinance allows today, the one that's been passed, to allow commercial and industrial implementations below the PA 233 minimum. And the thought was we could potentially keep strong residential portion, so houses and people could put solar on their houses, but exclude everything outside of the residential implementations like we did for battery and like we did for wind. That was one idea, and I can send you some detail on that.
Chris,
Let me interject there real quick. So I agree, you can definitely regulate private solar on roofs. I don't think you can exclude utility scale solar though. I'm not sure if that's what you were saying or not.
So you can't, so you can't exclude, or the question is can you exclude commercial or utility solar on properties that would accommodate less than 50 megawatt?
Well, that's a different, let me answer that two ways. You cannot prohibit the land use of a renewable energy facility that is covered by PA 233 that is in excess of the 50 megawatt or 100 megawatt for wind.
Correct.
You can, we're talking about the location, so it's not like somebody can, put up a utility scale in a neighborhood or in a park or something like that. That's the whole locational issue we're dealing with. But you can't say, we are only going to allow private, on a house's roof solar facilities in the township. I mean, you could do it, but they would just be able to go to the MPSC and get approval to put it wherever they want to. In other words, your ordinance wouldn't have any teeth.
Okay, but we did that for solar and wind, for wind and battery.
I'm not
That's what the
sure
ordinance
that I
says.
agree with that.
let me just,
I'm not sure that's what we did.
Laura, remember when we wrote the ordinance and we talked about the, we had a previous solar ordinance that allowed for solar in general, but then we said, okay, if it's gonna be less than 50, is this set of rules? If it's more than 50 and 233 is enacted, then we go to these rules.
Yes.
So Chris is
Correct,
talking about.
but it doesn't prohibit the use.
I know, so I think Chris was saying we either want to tighten that up or prohibit it. But I guess on that topic, I don't know, I mean, we've only really been given the direction to work on the overlay map and not going back to the ordinance that just got approved. So I would.
No, I know, I was just bringing, like I said, I was just bringing those topics up to be considered and discussed for this commission, right? For this commission, since Laura's here, just bringing it up to say that, and if this commission decides, there's no, I mean, the board can't say you have to decide or make decisions to change this, but it's to consider some additional strategies to try to tighten up. That was the goal. Another one would be including, at least if for the electrical installation requirements, including a section that said, even with PA2, especially with PA 233, that developers had to adhere to the existing IEEE 519 laws and the NESC rule 92D and 215 B, which from an installation standpoint deal with the adhering to the electrical codes and be subject to independent verification after installation that they are meeting these codes. And in some cases, we have seen evidence that including that kind of language even scares away some particular developers because they may not want to install based on those types of things. So that was just another consideration.
Chris, the concern I have is that we're going off the agenda.
Yeah.
We're going down the renewable energy ordinance, which we recommended, the board approved it, and it's, I would say, out of our court and not on this current agenda. These are good points, and I think it's very valuable to have Laura's opinion on this, but I think we're gonna hopefully see her more in the future. And I think we should, if that's a path we want to go down, we need to get that renewable energy ordinance review back on the agenda.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
sorry to cut you off.
That's why I was just trying to introduce them briefly.
Okay.
And there are a number of others that I can put in documentation and deliver to everybody, including Laura and Gage as well.
Yeah, happy to review and certainly come to future meetings, either in person or by Zoom, now that you know how to get you on the screen too.
Sure.
Thank you, Laura.
Yep.
So, do you mind sticking around for when we discuss the medical marijuana?
Sure, I don't think I have a copy of your agenda, but yes, happy to stick around.
I'm gonna share it on my screen. It's not the,
Okay.
it's the last item, but,
I'm good until about 8:15.
okay, 30 minutes. So we can we move one item,
It's like,
Ross?
Well, I mean,
We already approved the agenda. I think, these items will go quick.
Okay.
certainly should be better.
If not, we'll just have to pick you up next time. You only stay as long as you're able to. So moving on to old business, item number 2, extractive industry. We've worked on this a number of meetings. We have our special counsel, Gerald Fisher, with us here to discuss the most recent revisions to the ordinances. And one more thing that I want to mention is we gave Ross direction at the last meeting to schedule a public hearing for our next regular meeting. What's the status of that?
We've got it all ready to get sent in.
Okay.
It needs to be published by the end of next week.
I think that's,
We've got the holiday deadlines all good.
yeah, so that's public hearing next regular meeting. So go ahead, Mr. Fisher, and give us a summary of your revisions. It was included in the packet. Hopefully everyone had a chance to review the comments they had last time. Not sure, I think you might be on mute, Mr. Fisher.
Good evening, everybody. Good to be with all of you again. And I can discuss just the revisions, in which case it's going to go very quickly. Or I can broaden it out in any way you'd like for the public, whatever you prefer.
Well, I think, Chris, you had some comments last time about some small language. Were you able to look at that?
Yeah, that looks fine.
And then, Kevin, you had some comments about,
It's fine.
There's like different spelling.
yeah, we were at very minor comments, so I
It was
guess,
just minor revisions.
Right.
Yeah.
does anybody have any, comments on the revisions? I don't think you need to go through it all, Mr. Fisher, unless someone, thinks you need to. Stand by, I know you can't see us, but kind of just look, some of the members are just looking it over. I
Sure.
read through it, I think we're, I guess, do you think, in your opinion, we're ready all the comments have been addressed and we're ready to go to the public hearing?
I sure do. Yeah, I think the planning commission has done an excellent job of going through this, and I think we're ready for the planning commission. Ready for it to have it published for the planning commission.
Zach, I know you probably are aware of most of this, but, we worked on it quite a bit. I think even after the public hearing, we can make small changes, but, he's worked on this quite a bit, and last meeting, we were down to small changes, so.
I read it and it looked great to me. I mean, obviously I don't have the benefit of the history there, but it looked great to me. And
So I just have one question about it. Do you have anything in there for the depth that they can mine?
No, that is actually something that they would propose, and then the township and an engineer and probably a hydrologist would look at it in terms of what the impact is on the township and the surrounding properties, like local wells and things of that nature.
Okay.
But we did add, like the second from last change, we added some language with regard to making sure that we had materials in the ordinance that related to dredging, and to make sure that any dredging was disclosed and that the environmental impact of that dredging would be analyzed.
Are you good with that, Bill?
Yeah. I think that's controlled by the DNR also, correct, or Eagle? The depth?
Well, they may look at it, but the township, particularly, you know, in the consideration of whether or not it has a very serious consequence on surrounding land uses, township has every right to look at that issue as well. But I think Eagle might look at it, and Eagle, unless the legislature gives Eagle all of the authority for this type of land use, one of the things that Eagle focuses on would be wells that are drilled that are proposing a certain amount of capacity that for washing the materials that are pulled out of the ground. But the township is completely authorized to look at the hydrogeological impacts and impacts on local wells and things of that nature.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Fisher. Any other comments on this item? So I think we're ready for the public hearing. No changes from this last version you sent us. So Ross, on that, you included this in the packet then?
For the public hearing?
Yeah, since we're not making changes.
Draft. Yeah, I just need to get notice out for all of the drafts.
Gotcha, so we're good. Thank you for your time, Mr. Fisher, and we'll see you, he's gonna be included at the public hearing, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, we'll see.
As long as I didn't verify yet that he's available.
Yeah, okay.
So,
Do you know what the date is yet, Ross?
yes, it is going to be it's the second Tuesday of
January 14th, I believe. Ross can confirm.
I believe that's accurate. I'm going to the calendar.
Second Tuesday in January 14th.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher.
Thank you, and I just wanted to be fast so Laura could get.
Yeah, you were good. You were great. All right.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
So, Laura, we do have one other quick item. Old business item number 3, election of planning commission vice chairman. We didn't get to that, any approval or any approval on that motion last time. So, just a summary, last meeting, I was elected chairman, Bill Wood elected secretary, and so now we're just electing the vice chairman. So I will accept a motion.
So I think we're going to nomination.
Yeah, we need nominations. I misspoke. First, we'll have nominations.
I'll nominate Kevin Ross for vice chair.
Okay, we have one nomination. I'll accept a motion to elect Kevin Ross as vice chairman.
Motion.
We got a motion
I'll support.
and support. Any other discussion? Ross, can we have a roll call vote?
Sure. Okay, roll call vote. John Ward,
Yes.
Chris Rapetta,
No.
Rich Erickson,
Yes.
Bill Wood,
Yes.
Kevin Ross,
Yes.
Garrett Ladd,
Yes.
Zach Tucker.
Yes.
Motion passes. Kevin Ross is the new vice chairman. So moving on to New business, medical marijuana caregiver operations. I don't think we're gonna get very far in this item tonight, but while we have Laura here, she can help us with some of her knowledge on this. We've been asked by the board through a moratorium. There's currently a moratorium that I believe was just extended, and we're asked to revisit it. Currently, our ordinance allows it. Ross can confirm, but it's in RE and FR and RE. And we've had a number of applications come in within those areas, and they were denied. The most recent one was denied, one was withdrawn. And so, like I said, it's on moratorium, and we've been asked to revisit it. Laura, could you give us a little summary of, I believe it was like a Supreme Court, something that maybe when it first came out, we weren't allowed to regulate the location, but now we are? Is that true?
Right, correct. So there was a Supreme Court decision, Tyrone versus Tyrone Township, that dealt with this issue, right, where it was the idea that if the state is regulating medical marijuana, which it does that mean that townships can't decide the location? And the Supreme Court said that's not what it means, because the Medical Marijuana Act is not, or Michigan Medical Marijuana Act doesn't specifically take away that power from local governments. So you are allowed to locate, and I haven't looked at your ordinance since I didn't know we were working on this.
Yep, I understood.
Okay. So I don't know what yours says currently, but you are allowed to regulate by location.
Yeah, so like I said, ours, I don't know all the verbiage in it, but it's allowed in two zoning districts, FR and RE, which is quite a bit of our township, so.
It's also allowed in some other non-residential.
Non-residential, okay. I'll just pull it up real quick if I just have a.
So basically.
And is it a special land use?
Yes, yep, it is a special land use. So my understanding, my recollection was the majority of people, when we had a discussion last time, wanted to try to limit this to exclusively non-residential property. Non-residential zoning just totally prohibited from residential areas. And that's what we were hoping to do, and well, previously it was ill-advised, so now we're revisiting and seeing if that's something that we can do and it would be legally defensible.
Yeah, so one issue you might run into is if you didn't have regulations on location before, or as you say you did, you're going to have some, well, I guess let me back up. Have you granted any special land use permits?
Not on the latest version, no. No, way back, I think right when the MMMA passed, which is actually, it predates my time here, there was one approval for a caregiver operation for an outdoor grow, and that was shut down due to non-compliance. And since that time, there have been 1 to 2 revisions at least.
Yeah, so you won't run into the problem that some communities have where it's been permitted, and then you have prior lawful non-conforming uses. But if it's been a special land use from the get-go and you don't have any, then I don't think you'd have a problem doing that.
It was mostly compatibility issues that we were running into. The initial thought, when that's the best that we can do, is put it in our lowest density districts with greater setbacks and buffer distances and whatnot. Still, even with that, there were other factors like bus stop locations and adjacent driveways and properties, and it led to some compatibility concerns. So that's why we were last when we were talking about it, kind of considering maybe we should just do it in non-residential.
I'll look it up. 1 sec.
Oh, I missed the very last thing you said.
That's just, at our last discussion, it was, the thought was, let's consider taking it out of all residential zoning, permitted in non-residential, all of our, even our, it could be our local business, it could be heavy manufacturing, could be planned industrial, that's to be determined, I guess. We do currently allow for it in non-residential, but the big question is, can we restrict it to exclusively non-residential?
Yeah, I'll make sure nothing's changed in the law since I last looked at it, but my, off-the-cuff opinion is yes, you can do that.
What's everyone's thought on this? I think it needs to be out of residential.
That's,
I
absolutely,
agree 100%.
Is
absolutely.
that unanimous?
Yeah.
All right, so that's gonna be our direction moving forward. I don't think we wanna get too far into this topic today. We do wanna work on it every time since it's under moratorium, so I think we did today. We're gonna look at that. Is it commercial? Is it, business? Is it industrial? Not sure of that yet, but not in residential areas, so.
Yep.
I think, to be respectful of your time, Laura, I think, we'll just, I forgot the proper term, but we're gonna table this and put it on old business for the next,
No action taken.
no action
No action
taken.
taken.
So it'll be on the agenda for next time.
Great, that sounds good, I'm happy to connect with you more on that, for sure.
Will that Supreme Court decision affect the lawsuit?
That's what I was,
So yeah, you probably heard me mention that case name before when we did talk about the MPSD, because it's one of the cases that we rely on for our argument that if the statute only regulates specific items, like the Medical Marijuana Act did, like PA 233 did, then those items on which the statute is silent are still within the control of the local zoning authority.
I think your question was on a previous application was denied. We can't go back on that. Our ordinance allowed it. So we're not comparing to a Supreme Court. The Supreme Court saying what we can do with our ordinance, but our ordinance allowed it there. Someone applied and it was denied. So
Yeah, that's a different issue than
Different
what
issue.
the issue with the Supreme Court. The issue in the Supreme Court case was whether a township could even have a zoning ordinance that regulated location.
all right. Thanks for your time, Laura. We will hear from you soon. Next, I don't know, Ross will schedule you for next time we need you, I believe. So, thanks.
That sounds great. Hope everyone has a great night and a Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Thank you, same to you.
And Gage, I think I didn't officially say goodbye to you, but I think you're all set with all your action, right?
Yes, I think so. I was just staying around the corner.
That's good. We'd like to hear, and welcome to our planning commission. And if it's you or the next guy, welcome to McKenna, I guess. So that.
No, thank you so much, and I look forward to meeting you guys in person.
All right. So I think you can probably take the Zoom off if you want, Rich. Are we good with that, or do you want me to keep it on?
I'll leave it on, if Gage wants to stay on.
Okay, if you want to stay on, we got public comment, you can hear that, so.
I'll hang around.
That item
Thank you.
is closed, moving on to the second call to the public. Scott?
So didn't we have McKenna years ago?
I just want to tell you guys,
Yeah, we did.
that's the best interaction I've seen in a long time. It was great. That's what I want to see.
Scott, but we do need to, instead of blurting things out, please raise your hand, we may or may not call on you.
No, that's good. That was
Okay.
good because we had a pretty good audience. I mean, if there's a room full, it's hard, I know, but
Understood.
we're here to try to, and I think we did help. So, thanks, guys.
Thank you. Any other comment?
Jeanette, Tyrone Township resident. The question that I had about the MMA was the current lawsuit that we're under right now. So if they were to win, I'm wondering how that would affect, if Laura would be able to tell us, how does that affect? So then let's say they win and they're in residential. Now, how's that gonna affect us writing an ordinance that says can't be in residential? That's the question.
While we're under moratorium, there should not be an impact.
Right, but I guess that's maybe a question for Laura to be able to say, okay, let's watch that lawsuit
We'd want
because.
to be careful talking about a pending lawsuit in public forum.
Sure.
Thank you, Dad. So, thanks for the comment. You can keep going. On that one,
Okay,
would rather not discuss that during
okay,
this meeting.
all right.
But
As long as everybody knows that it's a consideration. But John, I honestly want to thank you for running a great meeting. Really appreciate it. And as Scott said, this was the best interaction that we have seen in, I would say, well, since I've been coming to meetings, so I do appreciate it. And that's all we ever really wanted, was to hear what everybody's opinions are.
well,
And
we had a tough item on the agenda
Yeah.
with the renewable, so we wanted to make sure everyone chimed in. So,
Right. Okay, well, that brings me to my next one, as I'm, jeez. Okay, so, it was, really hard to hear you a lot of the time we had a lot of chatter on the side over there. I would just say that. And also, I would like to know why the sheriff is here, but maybe somebody can answer that at some point. That is a question that I have. Number 3, sorry, I wrote these all down here. I'm gonna ask you, John, if with this new kind of start, it seems like to me, with new board and all, and everybody seeming to come prepared to the meeting and wanting to discuss things. But today, someone on your commission is mentioning me on Facebook and saying derogatory things about me. And I would like you, as the chairman, to talk to your commissioners and tell them that that's not appropriate. Now, the only way I know this is that I was sent screenshots from people that said he's talking about you. And I can't see it because he's blocked me. And I've never had interaction with him before. Now, this has been going on for months, and the things that he says are inappropriate, and I believe that should be held to a higher standard as an appointed official. I don't think it's right, I don't think it's fair, and it's certainly mean. So I'm asking if you would take control of that. I'm getting smirks from him right now. And I think that it's something that as a commission, you should be aware of and you should address it. Tried to do it with the previous board and he would not address it, and then what happened was it continued on. And it continued on with the person sitting next to you, I don't know what I'm allowed to say up here, continued on with him. Would you please stop smirking at me? Man, this is serious. It's not fair, and I don't find it funny like you do. And I just would like you to address it. I appreciate you listening to people tonight. I appreciate you taking into consideration what we have to offer. That's encouraging. One of the other things I'd like to know is, how do I submit information to you? Because I had some very important information from, the county health director in St. Clair, and the only person that asked me for it was Bill, and I did send it to Bill. But this is really important stuff. It talks about the health hazards that have to do with solar, etc. And there are other counties that are looking at doing the same thing. So I'm wondering, how can we get involved, or how can we encourage our own county to take a look at this? Because you guys know that one of your, when you take that oath, that one of the things you're doing is protecting, I don't know how it's worded exactly, but the welfare and health and trying to protect the people, right? So what can we do? So that's, how do I get a hold of you to be able to submit something to you? How do I do that?
send it through Ross at the zoning department.
Okay,
And then
and then you'll get it to them? Okay, thank you. So I realize I put you on the spot with talking to your commissioners about, that kind of action out there that I find is very offensive. But I hope that you will deal with it, and I hope that you will get back to me on it, because it isn't fair. So you may or may not say something now, I'm assuming that you won't, but I'll get back to you on it, and if I don't hear from you, and I'm going to keep bringing it up until it's dealt with.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I think that's it. The only two. Any other public comment?
No, I was just thanking you guys for
Just in
your interaction as well
Thanks.
between each other. It wasn't just with
Any miscellaneous business?
I just sent over a quick board email today about some upcoming meeting opportunities.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just let me know and I can work in.
Russ, although I think those are very, very good, you know, it's a 6-part series, and I can't attend every one of those.
No, there's
3 hours on
different
Thursdays.
options, and that's totally understandable.
So it's all one package. If I had you guys
That's
pay
like
for.
$250.
Yeah, if I had you pay for the $250 and went to 2 of them that I think are important, is
Yeah,
that,
that wouldn't be.
I don't think that's a good idea, but,
If you're able to, if you have the time. to.
Understood.
Otherwise, there are going to be other opportunities that I'm
Yep.
happy to share with you.
any other miscellaneous business? All right, I will accept a motion to adjourn.
Motion. Support?
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, those opposed? Meeting is adjourned.
Thanks, Gage.
Thank you so much, Gage.
Thank you. Thanks for your help on the Zoom, I didn't.
Yeah. Oh,
I mean, Teams I know how to do.
I was gonna say,
Zoom is
I
all
use
different
Teams
buttons.
all the time.
I know, it's all different buttons.
This is like my second time using Zoom in my life. I don't use that junk.
Thanks, Bill, good.
Just kind of staying here right now, I don't even remember, I have the names from
It says a whole list of.
I ran into them at work at some point, I just don't remember exactly where it was. Yeah, yeah.
Russ said, now it says in there, or the zoning department. I don't know. He's, I'm handling it.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, but just, you know, say, hey, there's.
Where does he
bunch of
usually,
responsibilities,
where does he hang
And
around?
he's gonna pay attention. You know, just that way.
Yeah. No, I know the name, so we worked together before, I just, unfortunately, I've gotten to the point, or maybe fortunately, I don't know which way, right away to say it. So,
I mean, it's like.
No, not the hot dog.
Couple bullets, but it's supposed to show that.
These,
This. They actually will.
you mean Eagle, yeah, they stopped.
but they, again, they hate what they're thinking now, it's gonna be.
No, there's a big issue. What they do is
I've had such a huge, when you.
Oh, yeah.